It's a medieval, mystical process, this whole selection of the next pope. Also intensely political, as we know, behind the scenes. It was so great that you were there last time. Maybe you'll be there this time. Who knows? But at any rate, the show's all yours, my friend.
We'll see. Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. A lot of heavy hearts in Christendom tonight. Non habemus papam. We have no pope. We're familiar with that phrase, habemus papam, when they pick one, and we'll hear it again and soon. But we know we don't have a pope. What we don't know is what comes next. Now, I say what and not who for a reason. First, how we got here. Francis passed right after Christendom celebrated the Lord is risen. The timing adds to the mystique of the man and the moment, but what he said in his last message, the urbi et orbi, to the city and the world, that should matter more. Francis believed the Catholic faith, and really being a Christian, could be articulated in a single phrase: love, mercy. And if his legacy is a reminder and indeed an instruction to us in the need for this, he achieved enough. Some of his last words recalled Micah 6:8, to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That is what it is to be a follower of Jesus. He ordered a Jubilee year of mercy in 2016. He described mercy as love's second name. And this is what he was about. And he was certainly about that as Cardinal in Buenos Aires, for all his faults. And he's a man, so he had plenty. The two words love, mercy are a command. Jesus' biggest, in fact, a life instruction. To forgive 7 times 7 times 70, as the Bible states, to turn the cheek, but to do more than resist, to insist on compassion and to practice care and concern. Being a Christian is not supposed to be a mere membership or an emoji or an icon after your name. It is a behavior. That's what Francis believed and taught. We already know what Francis thought about his successor. He hopes they take not his name, not Benedict's name, but John the 24th, not John Paul III, John the 24th, after John the 23rd, the good pope, the reformer who Francis revered, dedicated Jubilee year to him. John the 23rd, the man who brought Vatican II and all the promise of which was never realized. Modernizing conventions like removing celibacy and allowing women to be equal members in the church in terms of what they can do and what positions they can hold, and other designs of inclusivity that didn't happen and likely won't in my lifetime. But now, even though Francis selected 80% of those eligible to vote in the next conclave and supposedly picked them to expand the diversity within the College of Cardinals, many suggest the next pope may reflect the extremism and conservatism and, frankly, harshness of populist movements in Europe and back here at home. However, I want to draw your attention to a final act that defined Francis. It matters to me that our Vice President, J.D. Vance, became what was the last head of state Francis met with before he died. Vance, as you may know, is a convert to Catholicism. That used to be a rare thing, but it is a thing now with his generation. We're seeing more and more of it as people came out of the pandemic and they don't know what's going on, and they look at the world and all the rules have changed, but there are no rules. People cling to things, and often they cling to orthodoxy. And we're seeing that even within Catholicism. Now, look, it was no secret that Pope Francis did not like Trump's politics, okay? The Pope condemned his political beliefs and those of J.D. Vance, especially around immigration. And yet, he met with Vance. Francis was sick, likely knew he was near the end, and yet he met with Vance. Why? Why would you spend such precious time with someone you felt was a rejection of what mattered most in your faith? Because that's not true. Because Francis didn't judge that way. Because he tried to love mercy, and he showed compassion, the divine deliverance of grace, forgiveness that none of us deserves, but God bestows anyway, and if you believe in him, you do that to your best ability. So even in that final moment, even in meeting with someone whom he felt was likely part of the problem when it comes to politics, he met with him. That was Francis. And the mocking from righties and alleged Christians about Vance killing the Pope, that is who we are. We are weak, we are ugly, we are mean. Too many of us, anyway. I know it was just Twitter, but let's be honest, it's a poison platform that has become a projection of us at our worst. It's the nation's loudspeaker. There's value there, could be more. But what comes out of it consistently is the opposite of loving mercy. The Pope wasn't wrong about what his church should aim for, even if his successor takes a very different path. And he wasn't wrong about us. Our politics are harsh, unforgiving, uncharitable, and often godless. I see the failings in myself. I see them all the time. And I have a none too subtle desperation for anything that'll help me to be better. It's one of the things that has me choose faith, if not religion. The Catholic Church is man-made, and it has all of the flaws and errors of man, maybe even more than most. And I see those same flaws in all of us and in everything. We condemn the powerless, but condone the worst in the powerful, abandoning the signature virtue of our American religion, due process, and to do so out of petty expediency to kick out as many of those struggling the most as we can do. Now, Trump, as president, may have the right to do that as long as he starts obeying the courts and due process, but that doesn't make what he's doing right. Certainly not from a Catholic perspective. Certainly not the way he's doing it. Saying you're a Christian is easy. Loving mercy is hard. Now, I liked Bergoglio, Francis's real name, Mario Bergoglio. I liked much of what he was about as a cardinal in Buenos Aires. I went down there. I talked to people who knew him, for better and for worse. He had controversies. I was excited for his papacy as Francis, even if he was unable to bring many of the reforms I wanted and continued a pattern with abuse allegations. Now, I don't know what direction the next pope takes. The Catholic Church is a man-made institution. It is therefore inherently flawed, and it does a lot of stupid and bad things, as are all institutions. Do we know that now? Universities that ignore the balance of truth and inclusiveness, corporations that put profits above the people who create them for the corporations, and of course our government, led by people who are there by the will of others but do little for any but themselves. This is all why the instruction from Francis and John the 23rd before him derived from the original command, that of Maundy Thursday, right? From Jesus. So simple at the Last Supper. Love one another the way I have loved you, and do it for the love of me, and my name is truth. And yet it is so rarely followed. So I hope you, like me, take the opportunity of Francis's passing, not to glorify him in some superhuman way, because that's not what he was, but just to reflect on that message and what it means in your own life. Do you love mercy? You do not have to believe in God to make that your mantra. Joining me to talk about where we go from here and what Francis will mean in the ultimate understanding of the Catholic Church are two people I'm happy to have here. I'll probably mangle their names, but I do that every night. Dr. Edward Sri, and again, I'll get the name right in a second, a leading theologian, a renowned speaker on Catholicism, host of All Things Catholic podcast. Good, worth a listen. If you're someone who's provocative about thought, you don't have to be a Catholic. There's a lot of fruit to it. At least I've found so. And author of the book, Pope Francis and the Joy of the Gospel. And Father Greg Lambert, the first Black American to be ordained a priest in Iowa. It's good to have you, Father. Edward, how bad did I mangle your name? Now I can't even hear him. Make sure we get Edward. Edward, unmute your mic. You see, Father? It's a divine order. So, Father, I'll start with you while Edward's getting it straight there. How do you think Francis is best remembered? What does he mean to your church and your faith?
That's a great question. Well, to start, Pope Francis is a pope of the people, a shepherd amongst all shepherds, an individual who is so incredibly down to earth. And as a young priest myself, I'm about to come up on a whole year of being ordained. He is somebody who is incredibly welcoming, warm, charity-filled, and as you said, about love, about mercy, and about compassion. that is something that we try to emulate within the priesthood.
So he came in with a lot of expectations, a lot of controversy. We all heard the stories of what had happened in the previous conclave with Ratzinger, then Benedict, and Bergoglio's protestations to not want to be considered, which of course made him that much more admirable to so many in the Curia. How do you want fellow Catholics to judge what he wasn't able to do? People thought he'd come in and take up the mantle of John 23 in terms of fighting to end celibacy, to elevate women, and those things weren't done, and he actually got pretty quiet about them and wound up getting hit with the stink of the scandals of allegations himself and in terms of what he would engage in not. What do you want people to have perspective on about that, Father?
That's a really great question. Well, in short, the papacy is such a big role, to put it simply, and probably doesn't give it enough justice. To be on the chair of Peter, there is so many people looking at you, and there's also so many expectations from whichever side. Within American politics, we look at one side or the other as a general idea of a tug of war. If one side wins this time, the next round, the next side should probably win. But it's not so within the Curia. At least we try not to have it be that way. In the past year, the movie Conclave just came out, which was a pretty great movie, but it also shines a light on where exactly does church politics play a role within the actual development of the church. And to say that it doesn't would be naive of me. But also to say that our understanding of what the church will be after Francis and who he's going to be, what he's going to be remembered for, is going to be being a loving shepherd, someone who spoke to everyone who was on the peripheries, the ones who are in church who feel like they don't belong there, the ones who don't step or darken the door of the church doors because they feel like they don't have the right to. Those individuals who are the hands and feet of God, who need to be able to continue to be the hands and feet of God and to reach out. Pope Francis spoke for those individuals.
You know, Edward, let's talk about where we're going to go. And one of the things people liked about Francis, and certainly about Bergoglio as cardinal, was that he took the judginess out of it. He created the controversy around, who am I to talk about, whether a divorced person should be getting that or whether a gay person is loved by God or not. I'm not in the business of that. Let's just love mercy. And as obvious as that may be among non-believers, that was like huge for him to say within the Catholic community. But the idea that who comes next will follow and be like him, I can't find anyone who agrees with that, who follows the Curia and these machinations that manifest in the conclave. What do you think?
Well, I think that when you look at the heart of Pope Francis, and this is really personal to me, I was blessed to meet him on a few occasions very briefly, but he got to actually give a Pope Mobile ride to my own son in one of the Wednesday audiences in St. Peter's. And I think that gets the heart of who this man was. He just did things differently. He wanted people to be seen, to be known, and he picked random kids. He just started doing that, as no Pope had ever done that before. But I think it's a sign of what he wanted to do for the church as a whole. And that's what I hear you highlighting, Chris, is that Pope Francis saw that we live in a very wounded world, people coming from difficult backgrounds, poverty, fracturing of the human family, human community. And Pope Francis wrote about how so many people experience alienation, loneliness, suffering, abandonment. And those souls that need the love and mercy of Jesus the most, those are the souls that sometimes feel unworthy to have a relationship with Christ. They feel maybe judged by Christianity or excluded in some way from the church. And that's why Pope Francis, if I had to pick one word that really gets the heart of who he is, it's compassion. And he just wanted to show the world, this is the love of Jesus. And it's for everybody. He wanted to remove whatever obstacles that are there pastorally so that people can have that personal encounter with the love of Jesus himself. And so while maybe we don't know exactly who the next Holy Father is going to be, I would say I think many of the cardinals have been inspired by this idea of extending the love and the mercy of Jesus to as many souls as possible so they can encounter Christ, and then they could enter into the more fullness of the Catholic faith. But without that initial outreach of love and mercy, as you've been highlighting, Chris, people are just going to see the church as just a bunch of rules and an institution and disconnected from my daily life.
I'll tell you what, though, you can't sleep on that, Edward, because what we're seeing right now is a flight to orthodoxy and certainty, right? As we have more chaos, as we have more disruption, of rules and norms and what is and what there isn't. You know, you're seeing in these new Catholics that are being made, you know, converts are coming from no faith background, a desire for that. I can't tell you how many young Catholics talk to me about tithing and fasting and, you know, and the rules and the strictures. And, you know, you say to them, oh, yeah, you spend any time in a soup kitchen lately? Have you gone through your closets and given stuff to the church for other people? And they're like, wait, what? No. You know, there's a different mindset right now. And I wonder if the church, that really does suit the conservatism within the Curia. That idea that those are the rules. We got to get back to that. I mean, you know, there are a lot of people who still want Latin Mass. I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm an Agnus Dei guy, but it's an interesting path. That is not what Francis wanted, not as cardinal, not as pope.
Well, let me say I'm blessed to work with a missionary organization that works with college students all around the United States and in Europe and in Mexico. And I meet these young people, and I do see, yes, they love the idea of liturgy and they love the idea of the doctrines and inspired to live a virtuous life. And that's all great. But these people, they're the same ones that love taking a picture with Pope Francis at our big conference. One of their favorite things to do is we got a little cardboard cutout. They love Pope Francis. They're inspired by him. And I'll say I've met so many of them that do actually go out on the streets and serve the poorest of the poor. They love going on mission. They love being not just somebody that throws money at the poor, which is something Pope Francis wrote about. He said, you know, we have to have a real encounter with the poor. It's not enough to just write a check and give of your excess. Do you actually talk to the poor? Do you know their names? Are you their friends? Do you touch them? Or do you just throw coins at them from your spare change? And I've been blessed to see a lot of young people inspired, yes, by the liturgy and the doctrines and all that, but wanting to live it with real encounter with souls that are struggling, that are suffering, souls that are in poverty, and calling them their friends, really becoming friends with the poor. And I think that mix of bringing together, you know, maybe what you're describing as a traditional Catholicism, but with all the emphasis of Pope Francis, I think that's actually what Pope Francis was all about. He emphasized all this compassion and the mercy and the encounter with others in a world of alienation and division, because he saw that that's where souls are today. They're struggling, and he wanted to bring them to that encounter with Christ and with each other. And I think that legacy, I'm more confident that legacy is going to be built upon in whoever the next Holy Father is.
It would have been really interesting if he had come in now. It would be such a study in contrast. But I really appreciate your perspective. We'll talk again because we have to get through the respectful rituals of allowing Francis to pass on and meet the Father, and then we'll get into the conclave. It's interesting, though, he picked 80% of the people who are going to vote, but doesn't mean they're like him. And it doesn't mean that their heads are in the right place. They're a more diverse palette, but we'll see. And this nonsense about the cardinal from New Jersey, the day the Curia allows an American to be Pope, wow, that will really be a boost to faith, let me tell you. Maybe, we'll see. Father Lambert, thank you. It's great to meet a new priest. God bless you with your vocation and helping others. There's no higher form of service. What a gift to you and your family. And Dr. Sri, thank you for being with me. I don't like how you played with the volume there in the beginning. I'm losing here as it is. I don't need games like that, Edward. Don't do that to me again. Wasn't very holy of you. Everyone wasn't very Catholic. Take care, fellas. Thank you. God bless and be well. Happy Easter. He is risen. And who will rise next to the top of the Vatican structure? We'll see. Who will be the Bishop of Rome? We'll see. But again, I don't think it's about who. I think it's about what. And I think the Catholic Church is only as good as the people who are in it, who decide to do something with their lives. The organization itself, it's no different than any other. 4 minutes and 35 seconds coming up. If there's one person that's glad that the news cycle has shifted to the Pope, it's the Secretary of Defense. Because, what did they say to us? What did O'Reilly and everybody say? Oh, if he does it again, though, he did it again. It's not a lie. It's not fake news. It's not made up. And by the way, I don't think it's a death sentence. I know you're going to get mad at me about that, but he was messing around on Signal again and saying things he shouldn't have been saying with people he shouldn't have been saying them with. People who don't have the security clearance, like his brother, like his wife, like his personal lawyer. All right? So we're going to talk about what this means and what it doesn't mean next. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth once again used the Signal app to share sensitive details of a planned attack on the Houthis. And this time it was with his wife, his brother, and lawyer included on the chat, which means he did it again. Now, look, there's no question the media wants a scalp and they'd love it to be this guy. I do not believe that it's a fake story. But remember, details about the attack were also shared on a separate Signal app chat. This is a different one, okay? Hegseth decided to follow the Trump playbook, which is when accused, attack who accuses you.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. Hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters.
Now, you know what he didn't say? This is a lie. I wasn't on this Signal app. You notice he didn't say that, right? Why? Because he can't, because he's probably worried he'll get busted. Now, here's the good news. I don't think the president cares. I don't think he cares enough to give the satisfaction to the media and the people who are telling him he shouldn't have picked Hegseth from a morning post on Fox News to be one of the most important people in our government. He's been talking more, the president, about whether or not some Long Island high school team in Massapequa, New York, should keep the name the Chiefs than he has been about the chief of his Department of Defense. So let's bring in Democrat, member of Congress from Hawaii, Jill Takuda, and GOP, member of Congress from Texas, Beth Van Dyne. It's good to have you both. Thank you very much. Best for Easter, if it applies. Beth, do you believe that there is any chance that the president goes bad on Hegseth for this? And what do you make of his response to it? The secretaries, not the president.
Hey, Chris, and happy Easter. Hope you had a good one with your family. You know, at this point in time, all of this is rumor. I don't know what was on that chat. I have not seen what was on that chat. I have heard that there are people that were on that chat that were later fired, and they're coming out and making this a story. This Signal chat, from what I understand, just from what I've read in the last couple of hours, was established well before he was ever even the Secretary of Defense. So how long has this been going on? I don't know. The information that was there, if it was the same that's already been made public, and an inspector general is looking into, let the inspector general do his job. But the information that I believe was already released was not what the media was trying to claim it was not what the Atlanta Reporter was trying to claim it was. And if this was similar, then I think it's the exact same story, just extended. But again, you know, he's got a job to do. I'm supportive of what the president is trying to do, leading through strength. And there is just a lot of noise that I think some people would prefer to be able to point to as opposed to the job that's getting done at hand.
Now, look, to me, Jill, the idea that he doesn't even address the specific allegations is proof that there's another way to look at it than Beth is, which is that he did this again. He's sloppy on Signal. But the idea that it is a death sentence, certainly that's what the media wants. Is that what the Democrats want? Do you think the Secretary of Defense should be kicked out because he's having conversations on Signal that you don't like?
Well, let's be clear here. What you're seeing is a pattern of abuse, of indiscretion, of disregard, of a lack of judgment. I'm going to be honest. The president of the United States deserves better than what Pete Hegseth is giving to him. And in defense of this country, there must be accountability. And I do believe that Pete Hegseth should be fired. You know, this is not a partisan issue. This is about an issue of competence, and more importantly, the incompetence that we are seeing from the actually confirmed Secretary of Defense. And every single person, Democrat or Republican, every citizen and American should be outraged that he's allowed to continue this pattern of behavior, escape any kind of judgment, and pass this off as rumor and conjecture when we've seen the facts, not just the Signal ones, but the fact that he was openly opening the doors for Elon Musk to take a look at our war plans with China. You know, he's brought his wife into sensitive meetings where it's not clear that she even has security clearance. Senior officials left and right are literally leaving the Pentagon right now. They are in chaos Again, the president deserves better, Americans deserve better, and Pete Hegseth should be fired.
Doesn't look like the president's going to do it. Do you have any concerns, Beth? Because the Democrats can't do anything. They don't control any of the committees. But in terms of what would matter to you, what would matter to you as a Republican if the administration was exposed on that level at the Hegseth position? What would matter to you about him?
Was it gross incompetence? Was information that could have made a difference shared? What we've understood from right now is it hasn't. And I would ask the gentle lady, do you have information that the rest of the world doesn't have? Have you seen these signal chats firsthand? Do you know exactly what was in them? You're calling for this guy's head to roll, and you haven't even read the information yet. Let's jump to conclusions. What I have seen from a lot in the media, Chris, not necessarily you, but from a lot in the media, is they are already ready to have heads roll before they know information, whether or not it's the Hunter Biden laptop, whether or not it's the same press and the same media that was defending Joe Biden for being on the top of his game. We have seen lies after lies and distortions. And I think it would serve everyone well. Take a breath, get the facts, let an investigation happen. And then if that's where the facts lead, then do what you must. But for everybody to jump up and down on this, it's ridiculous. And it just follows the same old Democrat talking points.
Listen, I think that's a talking point too, though, Beth, and I'll say why, with all due respect. I'm fine with following the facts and getting somewhere. You guys never do that. I have never seen Congress get to the bottom of anything as a fact-finding mission. It's all pageantry and circuses. And I don't disagree, by the way. He's not going to get rid of him, okay? And it's his decision. And if that changes, then it changes. But it's not going to be changing because the Democrats yell at him. But the idea that there's a standard, I think if you flip the R and the D, we'd be having the same conversation in reverse right now. You'd be saying how Biden is brain dead, and that's why he put this fool in this position, and look what's happening, and this is just terrible. You know, that's my concern with it. But you know what? There's an instruction for you in that as well, Jill. You're not going to get rid of the guy. Why do the Democrats think you're going to get traction by going bad on Trump and the choices that he makes when you know you don't have the power to do anything about it? Isn't there another way to impress the American people?
Well, Chris, let me just tell you this. If the tables were turned and a Democrat screwed up the way Pete Hegseth did, I would be one of the first people in line to say he should absolutely resign. He should absolutely be fired. This is about the security and safety of our service members. When you think and look, take a look at that first signal chat that was leaked out by The Atlantic. He put service members' lives at risk. Every time we go, just like Representative Van Dyne goes, and we thank our service members for their service, we thank their families for their sacrifice. How can you do that with a straight face and honestly say that when you know the Secretary of Defense, the leader of this department, has exposed them and put them at risk with everything that he is doing right now? This isn't a partisan issue. This is that Americans, and even this president, and even you, Representative Van Dyne, deserve much better than what we are getting from Pete Hegseth.
You know who deserves better? I do. That's my new position. And not just from Hegseth. I think I deserve better from everybody in there. I really do. I think you guys should talk about nothing except how you're going to fix the fact that someone at the head of a corporation can make 350 times what the people who made him rich get paid, and that we've decided it's okay. I think all this other stuff, unless someone attacks us, is a waste of time. But Jill Takuda, I appreciate you making the case right here. Beth Van Dyne, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here as well. Thank you. Rebirth and renewal. Let's see if anything changes for the better. We'll stay in touch. Take care, both of you. 4 minutes and 30 seconds coming up. I'm telling you, I don't fake the funk, okay? This is a game that gets played. I'm not blaming them. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But that's just how it is, man. If Hegseth were a Democrat, you'd be hearing the same shite in reverse. That's why nothing gets better. So, what is the last standard? The law. Now, you can't politicize it, but you've got to respect it, okay? Will Trump win his battle with the Supreme Court over, it's not really just the Alien Enemies Act. It's not about one arcane law. It's who's the boss on immigration and what is the test to answer that question. And Harvard is suing Trump. Do they have a case? Next, two of the best legal minds I could find. And what is that going to mean at the Supreme Court level? Well, right now, it's not going as easily for Trump, I think, as he and his people expected. After reports emerged late on Friday that Trump was about to deport more migrants using the Alien Enemies Act, the Supreme Court stepped in and ruled 7-2 to temporarily stop Trump so they could review the case. Again, these are not people who are in a rush to come after him. Now, Alito, who's about as loyal to Trump as you're going to find, definitely was a strong dissent. Literally in the middle of the night, the court issued unprecedented and legally questionable relief without giving the lower courts a chance to rule, without hearing from the opposing party, within 8 hours of receiving the application, with dubious factual support for its order. Now, that is really nasty shite to say about the court and the justices that you share it with. And he did it anyway. So what does that tell you? Today, Trump took aim at the Supreme Court, saying that his team is being stymied at every turn, even by the Supreme Court. So let's ask two of the greatest legal scholars in America, the co-founder of State Democracy Defends Action, Norm Eisen, and author of The Preventative State, Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz. Gentlemen, both, I'm glad you had a safe end to the Passover. Thank you for joining me. I love you both. Norm, without being in the weeds, the criticism is nobody has ever been messed with when it comes to immigration the way you guys are messing with Trump. This is about politics. Obama got rid of more people. Clinton got rid of more people. Nobody ever used the courts like this. It's just because you don't like them.
Nobody ever abused the Constitution in dealing with migrants the way Donald Trump is doing. I've been friends with Alan Dershowitz, a student of his. He gave me my first law job, Chris, and you know what he taught me? You asked the question, who's the boss? The Constitution is the boss. As the Supreme Court has very clearly said, 9-0 the first time with Abrego Garcia, and then now with the Venezuelan 7-2. Notice and an opportunity to be heard. Due process. That's what makes us America, and that's what Donald Trump is violating.
Okay, but Professor, what's the flip in terms of using the courts to go after him for decisions that the executive was usually assumed to be invested with in other administrations, specifically on immigration, that the president decides?
We have to distinguish between the ends and the means. The ends, the power to deport, the Supreme Court will hold eventually, lies with the executive branch without undue interference from the judiciary. But the means, Norm's right, due process. Felix Frankfurter once said, the history of liberty is largely a history of procedure. The Supreme Court will insist that in exercising the constitutional power to decide who remains in America, the executive branch has to dot every constitutional I and cross every constitutional T, and they haven't been doing it. And so we're going to see split decisions in the next 3 or so years. We're going to see power given to the executive to deport, to decide who remains a citizen, who remains a green card or visa holder. But we will see the court demanding that there be at least due process. And what does due process mean? It means the process due to you for your status. If you're a citizen, you have all the due process in the world, right to counsel, right to jury trial. If you're a visa holder, you have very little due process. If you're a green card holder, you have some, but it can be taken away from you if you lied in how you got your status. So we're going to see if Norm were a student today of mine and he asked me, what should I do after I graduate? I would say, go into immigration law. That's where the action is. That's where,
Chris.
That's where he is.
You know what he told me in 1991? He said, Norm, go into criminal law. It's like mother's milk. And he was right. It's been very good to me all these decades, Chris.
Well, give me a quick button, Norm. What is your big concern? What are you so worried about happening next? Give me a quick answer.
Donald Trump said he would be a dictator on day one, Chris. And history teaches us painfully. When dictatorial powers are seized, they're not voluntarily relinquished. He's putting himself above the Constitution. It's not just these immigration issues. He wants to pick and choose birthright citizenship, which babies born here are citizens and not. No. That's for the Constitution. No wonder more than 80 preliminary injunctions and TROs. He's lost again and again. Democratic appointed judges, Republican judges. That is not allowed. And now the American people are waking up. They're demonstrating and protesting. He is messing with the Constitution. Not allowed.
He's trying to
Norm
mess with
Eisen,
the
thank you.
trying to extend executive power beyond anything that was done since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. But we're not in a constitutional crisis. He is obeying the
I
rulings
agree.
of the Supreme Court.
I agree.
And
It's not a crisis. It's not a crisis. It's not a crisis.
tension will
I'm
be
with you on that.
Constitution. And so I think all well, and we shouldn't be crying wolf.
I'm with you. I'm not a wolf. I'm not crying wolf. I don't believe it's a crisis. We have to have a few more steps to go, but it's good to have both sides represented, and I get the urgency as well, Norm. I do, and I love having you on. Thank you very much. Professor, you know how I feel about you. 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Another battle that Trump is fighting is with the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. Now, first of all, I don't understand why you guys are going so bad on Powell. Trump picked him, okay? So I don't know why he's accusing him of playing politics. He's Trump's guy. Now, is this even the right fix? Will lower rates be a good thing for us? Is that the fix? My man John McNiff is back in the house. Everything that's happened is what he has said was going to happen. I don't know how he got it right. He'll explain next.
We have a Federal Reserve Chairman that is playing politics. Somebody that I've never been very fond of, actually.
You picked him. He's a Republican. I mean, come on. You got to take responsibility for something. President Trump going after Jerome Powell like he's the problem with the markets, the Federal Reserve Chair, guy he picked. Okay? So I wanted to bring in my buddy, John McNiff. This is what he does, okay? He is a trader. He works with institutions. He understands the markets. He's been doing it a long time, hence the hair. Founder and chief investment officer of Modem Capital. Here's what I need you to tell me, Johnny, in short order. One, yes. Why is this still happening? And is lowering rates the secret sauce that he's pretending it is?
No. The thing to keep in mind is in 1977, there was the Federal Reserve Reform Act mandated by Congress that the Federal Reserve has dual mandate, price stability and full employment. So they have a lever that they use. They have a couple, but the main one is on the Fed funds rate, which is the front end of the curve. That hasn't been the issue. The issue has been the back end of the curve. We talked about 20 to 30-year rates. Those are the ones that have risen dramatically. Fed does not necessarily control that unless they start to do QE again, quantitative easing, which they did during the 2010s with post the financial crisis, and they started to buy those types of bonds. But the tool that they use is on the front end, and they have a dual mandate. What I said, price stability and full employment.
But his point is that if you lowered the rates, this would all be okay. Is that true? And why are you guys still so crazy after he pulled back on the tariffs?
Well, first of all, he gave you a 90-day reprieve. Tariff rates are still, 18 to 22% kind of on average. And there's a lot of work that has to get done for those tariffs to be negotiated lower and get trade agreements in place. On average, it takes about 18 months to get trade agreements in place historically. Just lowering interest rates, you're then affecting that other lever of the price stability, right? We just came out of a period of time with higher inflation, right? The Fed raised rates from 0 to 5.5%. They've gotten that under control and are trying to bring it lower. Their target rate for inflation is 2%. We're currently running at 2.8% in projections with the tariffs and the price increases that we know are going to happen because they're coming at us right away. We're going to push that up into the 3s. So that the Fed is in a very tough spot around lowering rates and not lowering rates and have the dual mandate that they have in terms of price stability and employment. Unemployment's at 4%. That's pretty good. It's the inflation piece that has got the Fed in a tough spot.
Do you think that there is a bounce back here? And if so, based on what?
A bounce back in the markets? Not anytime soon. There's a lot that has to get worked through here. We need these signals on the tariff side. That'll stabilize the stock market because that's very key to kind of the economics behind companies. But this flight away from U.S. assets that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, which was occurring, has really started to pick up. So we had the American exceptionalism trade that was going on for a couple of years. We talked about that a few weeks ago, and how that was unwinding. And now the trade they're talking about is sell America, sell treasuries, sell the US dollar, sell stocks. 30% of treasuries and corporate debt are held by foreign institutions. This is a big problem. If we see this exodus continue out of fixed income assets, out of the country, US dollar going down, and foreign countries bringing back their capital. And
Give me a quick yes, no. Are you buying or are you an Americant right now?
I am selectively buying. Yes.
Nah,
but I sit on a lot of cash.
And I think you have makeup on, which I can't believe. I'm calling you about it right now. John McNiff, thank you very much. We got to jump. He has makeup on. You know he does. We'll be right back.
I do not have makeup on. I'm red.
You got makeup on. You got more on than I do.
It's the pink shirt is playing on the screen.
I don't. Pick a side and you play to advantage, and that's what it is. When I say I don't care about the Hegseth thing, I don't know anything yet about information being shared in that would have been a threat to national security in a real way. And I see right through his Trump playbook, which is the media sucks, everything's fake news. Tell me the allegations are false. Let me hear the lawyer put out an affidavit that he wasn't on that thread. Now that I know that the bar can steal his license if he lies about it. That's the way you respond to it if it didn't happen. Here's how you respond to it. This never happened. What she says happened, what he says, what they said, it didn't happen. That's what you say. He didn't say that. He says, I suck for asking the question. The New York Times sucks. Everything sucks except what's good for him. I think that's part of the problem. I also think it's somewhat of a waste of time because Trump's not going to go bad on the guy.